today I'm lucky enough to have Felix with me. Felix, how do you pronounce your surname, please?
Mukungu, Mukungu, Mukungu.
But you've got a different surname on your Telegram, right?
Oh, that's Divo. Divo is just a nickname, if that's what you're referring to.
That is what I'm referring to. What does your nickname mean?
No, it's just a name that came about from a movie character, The Flash. So when I was watching that period, in that time when we were really into watching those series, a couple of friends just started referring me to Divo. So it went on, and a lot of people just continue to use that name on me. I'm not sure if it has a
Okay.
specific name, meaning or a character that resembles to that guy, but I don't know. I don't know. I used to love that
What did you
movie.
say the series name was?
The Flash.
The Flush.
Yeah.
Okay. And where are you from, Felix?
I'm from Kenya, Nairobi, right now.
So tell me, we met at the Adopting Bitcoin conference, this one
Yeah.
here that we were both at.
Yeah.
How did you get to go to the Bitcoin conference? What was the set of circumstances that took you there?
Yeah, so a couple of times a lot of people have tried to get me to most of these conferences. It wasn't the first time people have tried to get me to the conference, and I believe it's because of the work that we are doing with Bitcoin education. So the very first time I was supposed to go at a conference was to Bitcoin Atlantis. That is by my Premier Bitcoin team tried to bring me to Atlantis because of visa issues. It failed. And then again to El Salvador the first time and the second time it failed. And so the John, the founder of my Premier Bitcoin, wrote a lot of a very big tweet about what had happened when they tried to bring me to Atlantis. And a lot of people are like so sad about that. And I think so in the mind of some people, they knew maybe when it comes to adopting Bitcoin, they will really try to bring me to South Africa because Kenyans are not required to have a visa to come to South Africa. So that's when Jason, co-founder of Tando, together with Sabina, Herman, and John. I didn't know they talked before, but just Jason texted me and said, "Hey, we've thought of bringing you to South Africa. Me, Herman, and John and Sabina. So just send a photo of your passport. We'll book everything with the flight and also cater for accommodation. So yeah, so I send out my passport, and they were like, okay, yeah. So after a few minutes, I have my tickets to Cape Town, and that's how it all went down.
And what was the conference like for you? How did you find it?
Yeah, being the first time outside Kenya was amazing, and then the conference meeting all these Bitcoiners around. Like most of the time you just get to hear people or see people on Twitter, on social media, and everything, but getting to interact with each one of them and actually being part of the conference and not really just watching on YouTube, it's kind of a very good experience. You kind of now build even more relationship. The networking was very amazing. The way you put everything was so in order, and also the best part of it is a lot of people are involved in the conference. I saw some very little guys from Bitcoin Ekasi, I think the Safa kids, participating in the conference. Some of the people I interact with, some upcoming Bitcoin projects being there, talking about what they are doing. It's very inspiring, and also the best part of it is also the trip that we did to Ekasi, which you really did a good job organizing that. It was so good to see Ekasi there and everything that Herman is working on. I had had time to think about starting a circular economy. I was so much down into education, but after visiting the conference and actually interacting with a lot of people, are saying, "All right, you don't need to wait any long. If you have anything, just start." Hence, now I feel the energy, and also I have the kind of I'll definitely, in a very short period of time, consider trying and building a circular economy. And all this is because interacting with people at the conference from different projects like Bitcoin Doer, Coffee from Bitcoin Doer. I don't know if you know him, Bill from BTC Shule. And all of these people are like, hey, man, you're doing a much good job with education. I think it's a good thing. You can also build something on a circular economy.
So that brings us very nicely to what work you actually do in Kenya. Tell me about Bitcoin Core or
Right?
the core. You call it the
The
core,
core.
right?
Yeah, the core. So the thing is I was introduced into the Bitcoin space, not really the Bitcoin space, the crypto space in a very bad way. First of all, I was not a Twitter person. I didn't know about Bitcoin Twitter until 2021 to 2022. That's when I saw it's important to pay attention to what Bitcoiners are talking about on Twitter. But I was introduced to crypto, not Bitcoin, in a very funny way because it was a guy where I was working at a small shop, an electronic shop, in just a small kind of, we call it estates in Nairobi. Not really the
Sorry,
big one,
you
but
call it what?
estates, like, different small communities within the Nairobi county, right? So there's a small estate known as, for example, that's where I was working. And then a friend of mine came at the shop. They wanted to buy movies, and he was like, "Hey, can you come to a meeting? We are holding a meeting somewhere, maybe on this date. If you are free, come. You might find a way to earn some extra money." It was a shitcoin project. It was that's how I got introduced into this thing, and I once I was in, I was fascinated by the technology that, of course, I didn't have to create a bank account because you had to buy these coins to people and transfer so that you can fund your own account and all these things. And that was so amazing because it was like, okay, this is my address. So all of these things coming up, that was the very first time I interacted with a crypto project. I didn't hear about Bitcoin or any other thing before. Like it was 2020 at the end of 2020. And then we lost some money, and I had kind of brought some few friends of mine to that scheme. So, but then after losing the money, I thought that, all right, so this is something very unique because first of all, despite having to lose some money, I kind of transacted in a way that those people kind of explained how that thing works, and somebody can send you this coin from uh, any part of the world without really needing a
So
bank
sorry, before you
details.
go any further, this was it
Yeah,
like an investment scheme, like a Ponzi or
yeah,
something where you lost your money?
yeah. It was just a minute. Just a minute.
No worries, take your time.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it was an
That's okay.
investment. It was a pyramid scheme. So you were like to put some money there, and it was a project known as for Search. It was on Ethereum's network by that time.
On
So that
Ethereum.
was yeah. So that was the very first time I ever heard about crypto. I didn't know about Bitcoin the first time, right? So, but then, so it was an investment, just like you asked. So we were like, okay, we want to make some money. I was still in campus that time. You're trying to find a way to earn some extra Kenya shillings and all that. So, and again, we lost, and my friends also lost. So I'm the one who brought them in, and we lost money altogether. So you see how that the kind of picture that paints on me. So, but then when I got back and thought about it and went into YouTube and to try just to understand how is it possible that we did, despite losing money, we did this kind of transactions without really me creating a bank account or anything. that was the technology. The technology was what that fascinated me to keep on going and do some more research on this thing. Remember that time I had like a very small number of people who were doing this crypto thing, and then I found the Sailor series. I don't know if you're familiar with it, by Robert
That's the one
Breedlove.
on the Robert Breedlove
Yeah,
podcast.
yes, yes. The What is Money show. Yeah. That's the name. So I found that. That's kind of what opened my eyes into that Bitcoin is very far much different from any other thing. Remember, I didn't have. So I did the Sailor series. I went into there's also a free I think it's a free course on the sailor.org. I can't remember the name. There's a one Bitcoin 101, I believe so. And actually, if you go through the whole course and it's a self-taught, so you can actually get a certificate on that. So I went through some of the first few, should I call them chapters, and then kept on listening to the Sailor series on repeat, listening to podcasts, whatever materials I got had my hands on. I usually like read and read and read and read. And then I thought, wow, so this is so much different from what I was told. Yeah. So I thought, all right, so because this is an information that I feel like people need to know, because once you've gone through the Sailor series, kind of the perspective about everything you see, how you view the world changes. And then that now builds kind of a moral obligation of yourself to want to make the world a better place. And of course, if there's any chance for a world to be made a better place and anybody has to can participate on it, is of course on the Bitcoin network. I was still in campus, you see, I was not really that person who people could listen, but at least with the knowledge of Bitcoin, there's something you can do. It doesn't matter which level of life you are, which stage, how much money you have, but at least with this information, there's some impact you could make. So I created our WhatsApp group. All right, so we will be talking about these things. If you have a question, ask me how to send,
So
how to
just
receive.
before you go on, right? Let me see if I got
Yeah,
this right. You first got introduced to crypto via the Ponzi scheme, and then you
yeah,
lost money in that. And you not only lost your money, but you felt responsible for your friends who you introduced
yeah,
into the scheme. But then
yeah.
after that, you were fascinated by the idea of like being able to transact between you and your friends without having a bank account. And so then you started like researching and started like educating yourself on crypto. And in that process, you came across the Sailor series via What is Money on Robert Breedlove. And then you also went to sailor.org and did his course. And that like orange pilled you. And then you
Yeah,
started learning about the difference between Bitcoin and other cryptos, and also like the revolution that's inherent in the hard money of Bitcoin as hard money. And because you were passionate about changing the world, that's when you started this whole process of creating these organizations and that. Is that correct?
yeah, absolutely correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant.
So,
So
all
go
right.
ahead, tell me. I just wanted to see if I had it
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got it right. So the whole idea is okay. So we've lost some money, and those friends of mine, they were not like some strangers to me. So they kind of understood me that all right, we might have lost some money, but because of the relationship we had, they didn't like hold a grudge or anything. Like they weren't completely against me, or they thought I was trying to scam them or anything. They knew if we've lost money is because the whole thing wasn't the right place to put our money. And if anything, if it was about making money, then definitely Felix would have loved for us all to make money. So I formed this WhatsApp group, and we only had like a few people in there. I was answering to some very simple questions. How do we create a wallet? How do we how do we send? How do we receive? Where do I buy Bitcoin? How do you know? And at that time, I didn't know about the Lightning Network and so many things. I wasn't even on Twitter. as much, right? So I didn't know people
So
to ask
you were
about.
teaching them on chain. You were teaching them like all of these things, how to send an on chain transaction.
Yes, on our WhatsApp group. Yeah. So I didn't know about any other thing. So after that, I saw, like, so we were doing very casual meetings, Google Meet meetings, just like picking a random day out of the week and say, hey guys, join. Let's talk about this. All right, let's talk about this. So few people could join, maybe one, two, and the funny thing was my brother, whom we were staying with. I was joining from the bedroom while I was in the sitting rooms, and we could be sometimes the two of us in that video call. And then, yeah, so, and then we
Were
did
you
like a
guys
very,
using the same Wi-Fi signal?
yes, 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 yes.
Why were
So,
you doing it that way? Why not just because you were hoping that other people would join, or did you record
yes,
like these things and share it out? Why didn't you just sit across from each other and speak? Why did you have to do it like on a video?
so the video thing was because we had shared the link in the WhatsApp group, hoping that some of the people would join. So once some people would join, maybe the first 5 minutes or 10, and then some people will come in way later, maybe. You see, so you were just you see. I think you remember that video. Who is this early Bitcoiner who taught an empty classroom, almost an empty classroom about Bitcoin, and he kept on like talking about it. I forgot the name, but you know the story. So I kept on like speaking to my brother who's in the in the bedroom. Sometimes hoping that some people will join, and sometimes they do join. And that I couldn't just end the call in the middle. I could just wait for the whole hour to elapse so that we can call it a session. And then, so we did that a couple of times and get some people now, kind of people who are a little bit close to me and thought about it. Maybe they had some prior knowledge about Bitcoin. They kept on, they were consistent with attending this session. So we could see a number of two, sometimes three, sometimes four, but it was so casual. No way to evaluate people. No way to. There was not even like we know specific day of the week we will do these sessions. And then it was so random knowledge, so random topics we were picking because I didn't know any curriculum by then. So immediately, like after doing that for some time, maybe even 6 months, I thought, all right, so we need some kind of guidance on how we go about this thing. So this thing is not really about the money that we think it's about making money. There's some knowledge that we have to learn about history of money all the way to why Bitcoin. So I developed a curriculum known as
You
the
developed it
Understanding Bitcoin.
yourself. You distilled
Yeah,
all of the information that you had got from, say, the
it,
series, and you created your
yeah.
own curriculum.
Curriculum. I had like it didn't have like details, more detail, but it was a curriculum like a guidance of chapters and topics that people could. So it had 9 chapters from the history of money all the way to why Bitcoin, and in between some like subtopics that people could come and talk about. So remember, I wasn't really an expert in all of these things, but I had like a guide, prepared some guide that could take people through. So it was almost like now preparing a course or creating a course for what I was trying to do. And then by that
And where
time,
did you get your experts from? Who were the people that you introduced to talk to? Who were they?
so randomly I could just inbox people on Twitter. That's kind of what I do up to date. I would just send, hey, I've seen you do some good posts. Sometimes I could be wrong. I could pick a crypto person, a shitcoiner maybe, because not really taking my due diligence to check. But then most of the time was right about the people I'm reaching out on Twitter. Remember that time Bitcoiners are always generous. That's the thing. Hey, I'm Felix. I'm doing this thing, trying to do this thing with education. So on Thursday next week, we were doing it on every Sunday and Thursday at that time. I say, okay, this is the curriculum that we could use. We'll be meeting on Sundays and Thursdays of every week. That is 2 times from 7 to 8 p.m. East African time. And then I could prepare like the people I was following at that time, I could just reach out to them. Hey, we have a topic on introduction to Bitcoin. These are the subtopics that you can address. Could you please prepare something from with yourself and maybe come and talk to my students and prepare them? So they would come. Actually, they will come with slides and everything, and somebody will do a very nice presentation about what I had prepared them to come and present. And then now it started making sense to a lot of people. And then so through that process of just randomly reaching out to people, that's when I met Arnold, who was from the Netherlands, the Dutch, traveling to Kenya. And of course, when Bitcoiners travel into a particular country, they usually have the tendency to try and meet Bitcoiners in that particular country. And then he was like, "All right, so you're okay. I'm coming to Kenya," and all those conversations just to kind of have a rapport. And then that's when he told me that, "All right, there are some people in El Salvador who are trying to build something, and because you're trying to do something with education, maybe you want to listen to what they are doing." And then he referred me to Adam Neely, by then was still working with Premier Bitcoin. Adam and then introduced me to John. We had a meeting. John from Premier Bitcoin. I'm not sure if you are familiar with John. So the founder of Premier Bitcoin, which is the organization that gives provides the curriculum, the Bitcoin diploma. Yeah. So at that time, we were just doing a casual, like a meeting. "Hey, Felix, we are trying to build the Lightnode network. If you want to be part of it, you can. We will provide a curriculum. We have a book ready. And if you really want to be part of the network, you will join us as a Lightnode part of the Premium Bitcoin." And I was excited because this is the curriculum itself. It has everything I was looking for, right? So I took.
So, sorry to interrupt you, but were you only exclusively working on Bitcoin education, or were you also like creating a node, a Bitcoin node, a Lightning node? Were you also doing implementation, like creating software and putting funds together for it?
No. So the way the node network for me Premier works, it's not about software. It's just kind of a program, a small program that involves. So we call it the node network as it has these different projects all around the world who are starting educational initiatives, and then
So,
they
so it's a
join
node of education. It's a node of
education.
like disseminating
Yeah,
information, not so
yeah,
much like a node of a
no,
Bitcoin node broadcasting transactions. You just
yeah, yeah.
broadcasting information about Bitcoin.
Yeah. So that was actually the way you explained it. It's how John tried to explain to me. So we talked about that, and I was excited. So I took time because also I was wondering, okay, so what's this the curriculum? I took like a few months, even up to 5, trying to really look carefully into the diploma because at that time I really wanted that if we are going to adopt this, it has to be the information that I'm really trying to get to people. And then I realized, so they are doing Bitcoin only. First things first. Oh, we have the same mission. All right. So those are the very early stages of me Premier Bitcoin. And then after accepting that, we
I'm
started
sorry to
now.
interrupt you again, but you
Yeah,
said just now that they did Bitcoin only. So
yeah.
at this stage, were you also like educating people about Bitcoin and other cryptos?
No.
And was you also teaching people about Bitcoin only at this
Yeah.
stage?
Yeah. At this stage, the reason as to why I took some time to be part of the Node network for me Premier, the education Node network, was to really go through the diploma itself and to know that we are on the same page with trying to kind of deliver information about Bitcoin and not really trying to bring in some other stuff outside Bitcoin because I was just introduced to them like a week ago, and now we were just talking about this curriculum. So I was always sensitive. With also, sometimes I brought in some teachers before when I had my course, and they were not Bitcoin only. So there's a way they are trying to give information. Sometimes they bring in the aspects of crypto, and that's not what I was trying to do. So that time when I realized my premium is Bitcoin only, that's a tick, and then yeah, so I we talked about it, And then the very first time we had a cohort with everything put in line was October 2022. That's when we very first time had a cohort. Like everything is in line. We know we're going to have classes 3 times a week, from 8 to 9 p.m. East African time. And then so the very first cohort we had like
Sorry,
32.
three
Yeah,
times a week for an hour each session.
yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, and
Tuesday, Wednesday, and
Thursday from 8
Thursday,
to
8 to
9 p.m. East
9.
African time.
And was it like live classrooms or also like virtual where people were dialing
Virtual.
into Google Meet or something?
Yeah. Remember that time when I'm doing all this thing? I didn't know about funding at all. I never knew that all this time while trying to deliver this information or trying to work all these things. I never knew, I didn't know there could be a possible way to be funded because I'm not from a corporate industry. I was still a student. Actually, yeah, yeah. So it was like, okay, what I knew is that people needed to know about Bitcoin differently from the frustration of losing money and people being misled with the wrong information. That's all. So I only had my laptop. I had a very small house at that time, and internet. So how if you're trying to do it physically in Nairobi, especially, you need like some money up to start. So I kind of chose to do that virtually, so that we I'm just able to use myself as a resource and the laptop and the internet. And now with
And
the
the internet. So
diploma.
all of the resources that you have there, you use that to make it easily accessible for everyone.
Yes, 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 yes. And yeah, so it made it easier for me to not really depend on finances first, for me to start working on what I'm working on right now. So it only depended by effort, the internet, and the laptop, right? Um, yeah.
So are you
So
still a student now, or is this like your job now? Are you
yeah,
actually
so
earning?
all right. So
Is,
yeah, I after that all of these things are happening during the COVID, right? So I had to drop out of school because it was kind of very difficult for me to balance school with no like really background support in terms of finances to sustain you to just focus on school. So I had to drop out. By the time I was my friend meeting me where I told you Isambo at a small shop, that was a small job by my friend. So that was kind of what was sustaining me at that time. So I only
and that was
do,
sustaining you while you were studying. You'd like
yeah,
use that to pay for your living expenses, but your primary thing you were doing was studying. What were you studying?
computer science. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
yeah,
then
and actually,
and then
yeah,
after
yeah,
like COVID time, you dropped out. You stopped studying.
yeah. I
And
dropped. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay. And then did you start doing this full time then? Did you start like earning an income from doing this, teaching people?
So after a period of time of doing this, that's when we got our first funding from HRF, and then we had put all the budget of the resources we needed, some meetups, and also salaries for some of us. Not we have a team of around 4 to 5. Not all of them are covered
Sorry, you said not all of them are covered
in terms of salary.
in terms of
So
salary
we have
from HRF.
Yeah, we have funding from HRF at that time. So two of us like fully on payroll, and then we have others who paid per task. See,
Sorry, the others who are paid?
yeah,
You said two of you are on a payroll, so you guys get
yes,
paid a monthly salary, right?
yeah,
And then the
yeah, yeah,
others are paid just
per
for the
task.
work that they do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that came into last year. So that came in last year in May. You see, but the other period of time, we really depended on Gazer Fund. The period when we did like our first cohort, and but earlier on we had received some funding from from a Gazer Fund, which was roughly. $150 at that time worth of Bitcoin. And then,
So Giza themselves gave you the fund, or was it a project that you put up on Giza and then individual people sent you the funding?
So we had a grant at that time for it was Gaza themselves. So they had partnered with a couple of other communities, not community projects for that. So that time that grant was shared to a couple of other projects, not just the core. So we had like so many other projects where money was distributed differently depending with your project at that time. So that was the almost the very first funding I got, and by that I repaired my laptop. I got it a new battery, and then yeah. So some of the small things came in way later. Even the website, we got a funding from me Premier Bitcoin. At that time, we also have like that grant where the Premier Bitcoin holds some and conferences in different conferences. When conferences happen, the Premier Bitcoin somehow organizes and conferences as people pay ticket. So some of the money is granted to some of these node networks, and we were the second one to receive that grant. So those are the things that kind of helped me all and the team in that period until we got the HRF grant, which has been sustaining us all through down the meetups, some of the graduates, some of all these expenses that they have been happening in between last year to this year were due to the HRF grant.
Okay, very interesting. Felix, it's already half an hour gone for this conversation. I don't want to keep you too long
Yeah,
because I know that you're a busy man, but how
yeah.
much longer do you think you can stay here talking to me?
Yeah, maybe 20 minutes, the next 20 minutes, and then I'll continue with my work.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's great. I just wanted to check in with you and see that I wasn't keeping you from doing other things.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, wonderful. So let's continue. So last year you started getting funding from HRF,
Yeah.
and this is able to pay salaries for a few of you and pay for some of your other team. So would you say that now you are like almost living on a Bitcoin standard, or at least from earning?
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing else I do except also that I sorry I failed to mention this. So the very first time I started Bitcoin education, I knew from the word go this is something we can't really charge people at this early stage of Bitcoin adoption. So I've never tried to charge my students uh, the very early, even without knowing about funding and all that. I knew that we couldn't charge people. This knowledge that people need to get, at least it's something if we have to see adoption rise, and then we have to find a way to tell people about this information, not by charging them, but at least in any other ways. So before then, so I knew, of course, I want to tell people about Bitcoin, but then how am I going to sustain myself, right? So I started what we call the core arts and design. The core arts and design, I forgot to mention this way earlier. It's a profit program that helps that provide the service of printing and branding for Bitcoin projects here in Kenya, and not just Bitcoin projects, other projects. So we outsource some of the resources to do that. But then I've done a lot of printing for so many projects, including Machampura, so many like a lot of projects. Blink, the one I'm putting on here, I did this at ABC, and so
So you
many
say
other
you
projects.
did the actual printing of it. You printed
Yeah,
the hats and then
yeah.
you sent it back to them.
No,
You
not
bought
send
the
back to
hats.
them.
You kept it there in Kenya. You did it in Kenya
Yes.
because I had one of those hats. So how did it get to me? I got that hat
So
at the last year's conference.
so the thing is, some of the people that actually the printing I did this was for a guy known as Kester, who is also helping with doing a lot of stuff with Blink. So if you are doing a meetup, for example, you could write to Blink and say, "Hey, I'm doing a meetup, or something is going on here. We are going to meet as Bitcoiners, or even a graduation, and then we will love to share or give away some merchandise for your project. Could you come in as sponsors, or not really even as sponsors? We would love to also just print some of your merchandise and give out." Remember, I mentioned that we started our very first cohort in October 2022.
True.
So yeah, so we did the first cohort. We graduated 12 students. We did the second cohort. We graduated 32 students. The third cohort, 48 students. The fourth cohort, 42 students, and then the most recent graduation was 61 students. See, so in these graduations, we don't just hand certificates. We also give out T-shirts and 500 sats rewards to the graduates. So sometimes when we do these graduations, we tend to reach out to some of the projects, even Machankura. I have some of their merch, so we print T-shirts for the graduates, and also not just the graduates, also some of the attendees get lucky to get a t-shirt or two or three, depending with the number of t-shirts printed for project.
So when you're doing your education and you're teaching people like how to download a wallet, do you get them to download like a particular wallet or as many wallets as, or just depending on which organization is sponsoring you? If Machankura is sponsoring, then you'd encourage the cohort to get Machankura wallets. And if Blink is sponsoring you, then you get them Blink wallets. Is that how it works, or you just teach them
No,
all of the wallets?
no. So actually, because I'm really in the core mission exactly is to spread Bitcoin awareness through education. So we are trying to even like open source everything that we use. And one of the ways that we do that, we have that time before even we concentrated on GitHub, I had put all these resources on a Google Drive with different folders. So we have a folder for Bitcoin wallets. We have a folder for Bitcoin books that are allowed for the authors allow it to be shared, the soft copy. We have a folder for YouTube videos. We have a folder for apps that are useful for education, like the Wiser app. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. We have a folder for useful links. You know, some people write very good threads on specific topics about Bitcoin, like UTXO management. So the sooner I read that thread, I take the link and put it somewhere on WhatsApp, and then I will compile all these links with specific topics on Bitcoin. For example, if somebody is writing a thread on Bitcoin and human rights, it has to be on a different folder. If it's Bitcoin and energy, i.e. mining, these threads are on a different folder. So all of this, so if I drop you the link for this drive, which is open for everybody, you'll go and find different folders, which includes Bitcoin wallets. And for these Bitcoin wallets, we put every wallet that's Bitcoin only, and that we see it, we say we have written some small information for if this is a custodial or non-custodial. So we have all the wallets there: Blink, Blue, Phoenix, Machankura, and the guide on how to download. So we don't like specify this. We don't like, it's any wallet that we see it's Bitcoin only. We put it under the resources that the core use to educate their students.
So can you drop that link here in the
Yeah,
comment or send it to me so that any viewers that are interested would, you don't have to do it now, but you would send it to me so we can add it.
yeah.
Oh, there
I'll
you've gone. You
No, no, no,
just
no.
disappeared. Oh, you're back.
Okay. Sure, I'll send you the link, and the better yet, I will send you the GitHub, which is now like more. It has a lot of like everything, like, because I mentioned I do printing and branding, so all this time I was trying to also find a way to start earning a living in Bitcoin before the funding and all that. So I had to learn by myself graphic and design, not really an expert or professional mode, but just going to YouTube, collecting some information. Remember that I knew, of course, if we have to put up the course somewhere, it needs some infographics, a lot of all these things. So I also have on GitHub some stickers with Bitcoin accepted here. So we have the AI files for those who are familiar with Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. We have some AI files there and PDFs there. So you could just go on our GitHub, download some of these things and use it as you so wish in a local format. If you have to edit something, the AI file is there. So we have open sourced all this. So I'll share both for Google Drive for those who might find it easier, and for those who are okay with GitHub, I'll also share the link and you can explore all of these resources that we use at the
You
course.
know what I would love? I would love like a service where you can send your QR code, your wallet QR code, so that people can pay you, and then you get it printed on any merch. So it's like exclusive to you that people can pay you, like just by scanning whatever QR code, but it's on like some merchandise that you're wearing.
Yeah. Oh, that's an amazing idea. Actually, I would love to do that. Actually, I have a T-shirt, a reflector here that says, uh, um, what does it say? You see this? Can I pay with Bitcoin? So I think your idea is I will add a QR code if I'm being paid with Bitcoin. So it says pay me with Bitcoin, then the QR code is down there.
Yes. Is that something that you wear while you're going to different places
Yes.
so that people can like see, and then you orange bill them that
Yeah, so
way?
this I wear when you are onboarding merchants. So I had this challenge last year. I didn't manage. So the challenge was 100 biz underscore KE. I had a target to onboard 100 businesses to accept Bitcoin payments. So when we are going to onboard them, we usually put on all of the team that is going to do. We put on these reflectors with the branded Bitcoin and capes and matching. The point is to just, in case of anybody who is passing around, they are aware that, all right, this is a Bitcoin team. You could really start or spark any conversations by putting on a Bitcoin match.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. How successful has that been? Have you managed to onboard many merchants?
I did 16 shops. I started that challenge mid last year. So I plan to continue this year. But because like I've said, we are looking to really build a circular economy. So that's what is in my mind right now so much because now we have a structure for Bitcoin education. I can use some of the energy to focus on circular economy because right now there's not so much I need to do in terms of building this what I've built in the core. It's just kind of we have a template already. We know when the courses are classes are supposed to happen. We know the number of teachers. We know the number of sessions that we have to do. So it's all like now set. So I have some spare energy to start working on a circular economy.
Okay, I got it. So that's your next like mission, is to get like the beginning of a circular economy going.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So we've got 7 minutes left for this particular conversation. So I want to just ask you a little bit about your Nostra and whether you are active on Nostra and how's it
Yes.
going for you.
So the Nostra, I'm very active on Nostra, but then I'm trying to kind of transition to there. I don't use it as much as I use Twitter. You know, like the very first thing I wake up is, hey, let me check Twitter. Nostra, myself, like as a person, I'm just transitioning to see how I can now fully like be active on Nostra and then also forward that to some of the students. You remember, like most of this, especially in the Bitcoin space, things are happening so fast. The technology is moving so fast. Sometimes when you're doing some of these things, you tend to don't catch up in time, but slowly adjusting to that. So I've posted some few content on Nostra, but I haven't used it maximally to the way that I've seen most of the people use Nostra. But then I'm looking forward to like migrate eventually completely into like, hey, the very first thing I want to check when I wake up is Nostra, and not Twitter. So it's just like a transition slowly. I've been zapped there. That's amazing thing. Especially when I start like doing some content, what I've realized again, the challenge that we are facing is, yeah, so some students when they come in, they are really green on everything. So we are looking at a way of getting some actual content. Hey, how to download link? It should be put there. How to download or send out, receive Bitcoin? It should be a very good content put out there.
Yeah, I'm also hoping to migrate to Nostra. And this particular conversation, I'm doing it on YouTube to learn how the go live on YouTube together works. But I'm hoping that the next time we talk, we could like live stream this on Nostra instead of YouTube.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you want us to chat, or you want me to update you, or anything that is working on, or just have this conversation, be it on Nostra, be it on YouTube, I'm sure I can adjust to that.
Yeah, well,
Felix.
definitely I'm going to have like I said, this is like a very big learning experience for me. This is the first time that I'm going live with another YouTube account. So this is first time for me to do that. But because Nostra is something that's very topical in our community, you know, the adopting Bitcoin Twitter handle
Yeah,
was like
I saw that.
exactly. So, just like you are experimenting with moving all of your conversations onto Nostra, I'm also wanting to, obviously, this conversation, we covered a lot about your history, how you got started. And I'd like to repeat that, have a similar conversation about your background and all of that, but do it on Nostra. And hopefully, we can find time in the next couple of days or within the week to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Let me know. I have some most of the time. I have some free time on Mondays and Fridays. So just hit me up. I'll be prepared, and then we can have this kind of conversation. I love talk about Bitcoin and myself, just in case it inspires anybody who is just starting. It's a journey that I think a lot of people who are starting, especially of my age, when they are starting, they need to hear so that they have this kind of assurance that doesn't really matter in time. People are going to also, you can boom in the space with what you're doing.
Thank you so much for coming on my channel, Felix, and thank you for doing the wonderful work that you're doing. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about speaking about this on Nostra again.
Oh, yeah, and just before you go, can you tell people where to find you, please?
All right, so on Twitter, you can find me at Mukungu Felix. On any other platform, you can find me on usernames Felix Debo. Yeah, so those are the major
Would you spell
platforms that
that,
I use.
please?
Felix Divo, Felixdivoar. That Mukungu Felix is Mukungufeilix.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thanks so
Yeah.
much. We'll speak to you again soon, Felix.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.